everybody. Welcome to EventSpeak with me, Big John, CEO of Beyond Experiential. Find us out here on the web at www.eventspeak.com. For those of you new to the show, we are an interview show where we talk with folks that are professionals across the entire ecosystem of the event business. So we've had people on from the music business, from the brand marketing business. We've had Hollywood producers on. Today's guest is very special because he has this unique thing that he does in his end of the event industry, as he is a comedian and magician that specializes in high-end private and corporate events and is also a featured performer at Hollywood's renowned Magic Castle. Zach has performed with people like Seth MacFarlane, Sugar Ray Leonard, Sharon Osbourne, Microsoft, and Business Week are just some of his clients. And we actually are old friends. Welcome to the show, Zach Waldman. Zach, how are you, man?
I'm awesome. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we've been friends for a very long time, so this is cool.
Dude, it's great to see you. Honestly, I was sort of reminiscing prior to getting on camera, just thinking back to when we met. And if you remember, I believe you were doing a Christmas party that Michelle had hosted back in the old days with Sully and everybody and Mar Vista. And I remember you had giant hair at the time, and you were just doing these, I was like, this guy's a warlock. What's his deal? Like, you were doing these incredible like card mechanics. And one of them, I remember you had the card that people would choose shaved into your chest, but it changed throughout the night. It was crazy, man. Like, I'm really stoked to see you again and get a chance to talk with you and see how everything that's going on in the world right now is treating you. First and foremost, how are you? How's the family? How are things?
Everything's good. You know, I'm out here in Santa Monica, California. The rest of my family, I'm the only one out here. My dad is 90 years old, but he lives in Miami, which, as Jerry Seinfeld said, is the law. And but my sister and nephew are taking care of him, and they're all doing fine. Everybody I know is, I think everybody knows somebody who lost somebody or knows somebody who knows somebody. So there's not that many degrees of separation between what's going on and how it's affecting everybody. But clearly, I mean, as soon as this happened, all of my gigs were canceled. I have a couple of steady gigs that I do stand-up and magic at, and all of those comedy clubs and those venues all shut down. So basically, my income went to zero. The only thing that has happened is I've had a couple of people contact me and ask me to do shows over Zoom. And, when you've got nothing coming in, you're like, what the heck, I'll do it. I'll tell you one funny one was a doctor was quarantined. It was her birthday. Her boyfriend, quarantined in Orange County, far away from her, asked me if I would do a magic show for her outside, like 10 feet away. So I went over there, and she set up her phone on FaceTime, set it next to her, and I got this picture of her boyfriend virtually next to her on outside patio furniture, like in a public seating area of the apartment complex. So I did it, there's been a couple of, gigs like that. Good to make a few bucks. Personally, I go, why would you want to watch a magician over Zoom when you could just watch like an old David Copperfield special on YouTube? Because it's just, in my opinion, it's just not that great. I think what people like about it is it's just something different, and they like the interaction and that it's live. I'll tell you, as a comedian and a magician, because I've done both. I've done stand-up and magic on Zoom at this point. I will tell you the good thing is you can mute everybody. So there's no heckling. There's nobody interrupting the show.
All right. Mute.
And as a magician, you can frame the shot exactly the way you want it, so there's no poor angles either. Because like in the real world, you would have people standing behind you or next to you, and you'd have to correct for that or maybe not do certain tricks. But now you've got one frame. You could do anything here, and no one could see
Total control of it. So there are some silver linings to being forced to Zoom. You know, I follow you on socials, and I think the socially distanced performance you're referring to, I saw that, and it was really early on. Like, it was right after all this started happening. I'm like, look at Zach, man. He's already on the jump. Zach, I'm curious because you advertise yourself as a comedian, magician, and a mentalist. And you said that you can customize your act per your website to your client's needs. Like, kind of explain to me how those sort of handshake each other. How do you do comedy, magic, and be a mentalist all in one?
Well, I will tell you this. Most magicians are not comedians, but something in their act will make you chuckle just because of who they are. They're not doing stand-up. I do traditional stand-up comedy with no magic at all. Actually, right before this all happened, I performed at the San Luis Obispo Comedy Festival, which was awesome. A lot of great comics on that, and had a lot of fun. But most magicians don't do straight stand-up. So one of the things that makes me unique is I do that. But most magicians, at some point in their act, you're going to laugh. David Copperfield, you wouldn't call him a comedian, but if you ever saw him live, there's moments that are comedic.
Sure.
Also, with the mentalism thing, I'm like a comedian first. You know, it's comedy, magic, mentalism. I do comedy mentalism. Funny enough, I'll make this short. I was up for a gig recently, a big corporate event, and the woman wanted to hire me, but her partner was reluctant because a few years back they had hired a mentalist who bombed horribly. And when it said comedy, magic, mentalism, he was like gun shy. And I said, well, first of all, just because you had one bad experience with a mentalist doesn't mean all of them are bad. And number two, I'm not really a mentalist. It's comedy mind reading. Like, I do a comedy straitjacket escape, but I'm not an escape artist. And
I understand.
Right.
Part of your shtick.
So that's how I end up doing all these. Now, as far as customizing it and how this benefits companies, one example, and one of the most common examples of customization for corporate events is trade shows. A company will hire me to attract a crowd to their trade show booth, and then entertain that crowd while also educating them of the features and benefits of their product or service. Oh. So, you know, a trade show is all about foot traffic, getting as many people into your booth as possible, letting your salespeople get their contact info for follow-up, right? It's a lead generation tool. It's also an educational tool. It's like there's 10 booths selling, I don't know, a CRM. What makes this CRM different? And so I'll use magic as a metaphor to illustrate the features and benefits of your CRM or your POS system or whatever it is you happen to be selling. So I might use, as an example, the old linking rings, right? And that's kind of a metaphor. It's like, you know, are you locked into your old contract and the rings are together? And it's like, you know, get out of that kind, and then boom, the rings separate, they melt through each other. So it's that type of thing. I don't do a lot of trade shows. I do some of them. 99% of my corporate events are sales meetings. And in sales meetings, I'll do typically an hour of close-up sleight of hand magic during the cocktail hour. And then people sit down, have dinner, they spotlight key achievers, they give out some awards maybe, they thank everybody. It's usually a gala that's at the end of maybe a week of sales training, right? And then I go up there and I do a stage show, and the stage show is a blend of stand-up comedy, magic, and some comedy mind reading. By the way, something new I'm adding to my show, memory stunts. So that's another thing. So it's going to be comedy, magic, mentalism, and superpower memory stunts. So, you know, I'm always adding things. The show's always evolving. And but of course I do private parties too, and I do corporate events where there is no messaging. They just want to have fun. They go, hey, it's our company holiday party. No need to give a message or to customize or to sell anything. We just want you to come in and knock our socks off, make everybody laugh, and blow them away with great magic, that kind of thing.
And you do that very well, for that matter, Zach. I've seen you act many times. That's really interesting to me, because essentially what you're telling me is, if you're doing say a trade show and you have product X, you are going to be doing illusions and magic that's incorporating product or service X into it, sort of, if anything, getting across key messaging in more of an entertaining way than just walking up to a booth and hearing someone in a suit and tie talk to you about whatever it is they're selling or demonstrating.
Yeah, over the years, if you've been to a lot of trade shows, I'm sure you've seen a lot of gimmicks at trade shows that they use to try to attract attention to their booth. I used to work a lot in the liquor industry doing on-premise promotions. If you've ever been to a bar or a restaurant and they have these really pretty girls walking around.
Oh, absolutely.
A free drink.
Managed a few of those.
Yeah, and they give you some tchotchkes, right? Here's a keychain. Here's so and then they have a big show called the Nightclub and Bar Show in Vegas every year, where it's all of these, wine, beer, liquor companies. All the huge ones are there, and it's a trade show for the liquor industry. And almost every booth has beautiful women giving out shots. I got hired by a lot of them because they would still have the beautiful women, but now they had a magician doing magic with their product and talking about it. So it would stop people. They'd go, well, there's pretty girls everywhere, but this booth has pretty girls and a magician.
And a magician.
Cool.
And Zach. So that, that's interesting to me, because, I would think this day and age for a lot of folks, from stand-up comics to magicians, that trying to tap into the virtual experience to keep yourself working seems the obvious. I mean, everybody, here we are talking on Zoom, everybody's doing it. Now, I'm curious, because I know another thing that's part of your background is you are a featured performer at the Magic Castle. Unfortunately, right now, I'm sure the Magic Castle, like everywhere else, is closed down, but walk me through it a bit, and to your generosity, and folks, if you've never been to the Magic Castle, I believe that you have to be a member or get invited by a member to go. I've gone a few times as Zach's guest, and it's really quite an experience and something to see and take in. Zach, tell us a little bit about how you got into the Magic Castle, and a little bit about what a night at the Magic Castle might look like if you're there, and when we're post-COVID, if people were to come in and see you there, what they can expect to experience.
Sure, yeah. The Magic Castle, like you said, it's a private club. Really strict dress code. Guys have to wear jackets and ties, dresses for the ladies. And it's an old Victorian mansion with several theaters, several bars, and a restaurant. And the best magicians in the world perform there 7 nights a week in all of these different theaters. There's the Close-Up Gallery, which is a small theater, only holds 20 people sitting and 10 standing. That's the room I perform in. Then there's the Parlor of Prestidigitation, which is a medium-sized room. Then the Palace of Mystery, which is a large room where they do more of the stage-type magic illusions, that kind of thing. And then there's several other ancillary theaters and alcoves where members might be working on new material, doing shows for their friends, things like that. So, upon your arrival at the Magic Castle, you're greeted by a hostess, you're checked in, you say some magic words to go through a secret passage to enter the Magic Castle. And you're given a schedule so you could see all of the different showrooms and the times. And there are many, many surprises in the Magic Castle. We have a piano player named Irma. She's invisible. She's a ghost. You can name any song you would like, and she will play it for you, which is really funny because with technology now, you could get like Siri to do that or Alexa, right? But
yes, I suppose that's true.
Yeah, but Irma's been there, since like the 60s doing this. So it's a different kind of experience. But all kinds of, so you'll go and see the close-up sleight of hand type magic in the close-up room, and you'll see something, kind of like a stand-up type guy in the medium-sized room, and you'll go see all these different shows. If you come and see me, one thing I do is I do host private groups where I meet you, I take you on a tour, I guide you to the shows that I recommend, because you can't get to everything in one night. And there's kind of, if you've been going there a lot, you get savvy at, okay, if we go here, we can get here in time to see these two things. So if you've never been there, you can end up missing some things without a guide. And then I take them on a tour of the place, tell them about the history, show them some secrets, take them to the shows, have dinner with them, and then I take them to a private area and do a private show just for them.
Oh, wow, dude, that's awesome. First I've heard about that, man. Well, we'll have to, I might be hitting you up down the road, man, once we get back into it, because here at EventSpeak, we talk about the value of shared experiences. And folks out there watching, I can't imagine a better experience that's shared than going to the Magic Castle. It's a unique place. And it's a rare gem that's in part of the Hollywood culture. And Zach, that's really fantastic that
there's no place in the world like the Magic Castle. It really is. It's spectacular. Yeah.
And and I think it speaks to the level that people like yourself perform at. I don't think I've ever gone there where I wasn't completely blown away from things that were, like you were saying in the gallery downstairs, the up-close gallery where they're doing a lot of card mechanics. Just simple things like that, well, not simple, but things that I'm like, whoa, this is incredible. To, your bigger shows up in the theater. And of course, the whole drop of Hollywood behind you in the hills. It's really quite an experience. Let's talk about a little bit about you personally. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, you are a brown belt in jiu-jitsu?
That's right. I got that a year ago. My instructor is Eddie Bravo, and I train at 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, downtown LA. We call that headquarters. He's got affiliates all over the world. But headquarters, where Eddie teaches, is where I go. I've been with Eddie since 2007.
Wow, okay.
And he's one of my best friends, great guy. He's makes a lot of appearances on the Joe Rogan podcast. I knew Joe Rogan from the Comedy Store originally, and Joe is how I found Eddie.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right.
And I love Eddie to death. Him and I used to do a podcast together years ago called Eddie Bravo Radio, where we take opposite sides of issues. He's a hardcore conspiracy theorist. He's a flat earther, doesn't believe in space, chemtrails. You name a conspiracy theory, Eddie Bravo is on board. I'm pretty much the complete opposite.
I was going to say.
The earth is round. But I love him to death. And yeah, I've been with him a long time. And yeah, there you go. Jiu-jitsu. That's pretty much all I do is stand-up comedy, magic, and jiu-jitsu. That pretty much sums up how I spend every day.
That's how you spend your time. Tell us a little bit about what it takes to get to that level in jiu-jitsu, and also how jiu-jitsu crosses over into your life. I mean, how do you utilize it in the sense of perhaps preparing for events, shows? How does that all sort of relate to each other?
Wow. Okay. You said this was going to be a short conversation, so I'll try to make this
Wikipedia answer.
Yeah, that's a can of worms. Jiu-jitsu is one of the most important things I ever did in my life, for so many reasons. It started off as a way of reducing anxiety for me. If you have issues with anxiety, as a lot of performers do, just people out there that go, wow, I don't know how you get up there on stage and do that. I could never do that. It's like, well, most of us are scared too, but we do it anyway, And so exercise is one of the best things to alleviate that. It's also, it's such a complex martial art. It just is so deep, and there's so many levels to it and so many paths you can take that it's not like there's never a risk of redundancy. And it's something you can just think about, why did I get submitted and what could I have done differently? It's a puzzle you're figuring out. So you're exercising your mind and your body. And then, there's some practical points too. I mean, I think those are practical, but let's say business-wise, I've booked several gigs from being in jiu-jitsu because there's a lot of camaraderie and there's a lot of trust because people aren't familiar with jiu-jitsu. It's submission grappling. So it's like wrestling with submissions. And if somebody is arm barring you and you tap, you have to trust each other enough to not hurt one another and not, choke somebody unconscious when they're tapping. So there's a lot of camaraderie, a lot of trust. And because of that, we become friends. And someone says, hey, my company's having a holiday party. Give me your info. I'll pass it on to the person doing it. And I've booked several gigs that way from just the networking. And in terms of business, when things get tough, jiu-jitsu teaches you to persevere and also turns the volume down on the world. Jiu-jitsu just has a way of turning the volume down on everything. So, when you're driving and someone does something crazy, you kind of just let it go a little bit. When a client is difficult, things just roll off your back more. You're just, the stress reduction, the camaraderie, what it does for your mind. And also, let's not forget staying physically fit as a performer. I want to look good on stage, but also what I do is pretty physically demanding. I'm on the road quite a bit. And when you're lugging cases, from airport to hotel, from airport to rental car to hotel, back to the rental car, back to the airport, back, and you're doing that regularly, man, it's tiring. And then the performance itself, if you're giving the performance everything you have and you're killing, when you're done, you're tired. You used a lot of energy, and if you're not physically fit, I've seen guys that are not physically fit struggle on stage to give it their all. They don't move around a lot.
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, it's literally one of the most important things that I ever did for my mind, my body, for my career. Every aspect of my life is better for having started doing jiu-jitsu. And it's not a coincidence. You can look up articles, but there are more before and after transformation type pictures from jiu-jitsu than probably anything else, probably more so than CrossFit or Weight Watchers or whatever kind of other thing you want to. And I won't go into the details, but you can look it up and research it. There's some reasons for that. And you've known me a long time, and I'm kind of unrecognizable as the person I was when you met me, and not just because of the haircut. Just everything in my life, I'm much more even-keeled and balanced and just overall a healthier person, with my healthier relationships, with healthier friendships, and everything's just better.
No, dude, definitely. Lord, we don't get to see each other nearly as much as we should, but I've noticed the transformation in you. And then when, learning that about you with jiu-jitsu, I found that very interesting. Turns down the volume on the world, which is something I think everybody can appreciate on this day and age. Zach, it's been such a pleasure talking with you. I really can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming by and talking with us today. You guys can find Zach out on the web at ZachWaldman.com. That's ZachWaldman.com. Zach, come by anytime. Love talking with you and love to have you back on the show another time.
Hey, I thank you so much for having me, man. I was trying to think how many years I've known you, and it's been a lot. You've always been such a good dude, and I wish you the best of success with everything. Hopefully this will be over soon. And, I should say two quick things. One, I never answered one of your questions. You asked me how I got into the Magic Castle. For the record, you do have to audition to become a member there, and then you have to audition for each individual venue to actually perform there. So here's a little tip for event planners. If you're hiring a magician, it should be me. But if it's not me, and you ask somebody, do you perform at the Magic Castle? Sometimes they'll say they do, and what they mean is they're members and they perform in these impromptu areas. Say, well, which room do you perform in? And if they don't say close-up parlor or palace, one of the main rooms, then, I mean, there's a couple of other exceptions, but generally, they're not booked performers. And there's a big difference in the level of performer at the Magic Castle between simply being a member and somebody that is a booked performer there on a regular basis. So that's a question you can ask, because so many magicians, if you're just going by what you see online, look alike. And it can be hard to know what makes them different. And you might see Magic Castle member listed on many pages, but when you dig a little deeper, so that's just a little hiring tip, a vetting tip. The other thing is, talking about jiu-jitsu, the other thing that was one of the most important things I ever started doing was meditation, my friends. If you have issues with anxiety before you perform, or even if you're not a performer, if you're an event planner and you have all of that stress of coordinating and hoping the magician shows up on time along with the caterer and all of that, I can't recommend that as well enough. I can't recommend it enough. It's been one of the key things. And so I didn't mean to have the addendum, but I thought that might be some useful information. And I just want to thank you again, man. This was awesome. And anytime you want to chat event planning or any of this stuff, war stories, I could do this for hours. So
Zach, that's awesome. I really appreciate your kind words first and foremost. I've always thought highly of you and admired you for what you do and the way you carry yourself, and we have a lot of mutual friends out there, guys, that we have, and they say birds of a feather. Great tips on the Magic Castle there. And I was going to say, on a personal note, I started practicing Nichiren Buddhism with the SGI a little over 4 years ago, and fundamentally changed my life in incorporating chanting and some aspects of meditation into my my personal life. And I agree with you 100%, Zach. Like, folks out there, you need to find ways to turn down the volume on the world, as Zach so eloquently put, and learn to laugh and be wild at the same time. And Zach Waldman is the guy to do it for you. Once again, everybody, that's Zach Waldman at ZachWaldman.com. We are EventSpeak on EventSpeak, www.eventspeak.com. I am Big John from Beyond Experiential signing off. Please take care of yourselves and each other.